All right. So thank you so much for Bruno for being here today, having this conversation with me. Really appreciate it. And I'm not going to make a big intro. Really want to dive into your story because you got a really exciting one to share where you're coming from, where you've gone already, and where you're going. So Bruno, I'm really excited to have you here. Thank you so much for doing this interview with me. And tell us a little bit about your background, your story.
Hello, Daniel. I have to say thank you. Uh, yeah, when I go back to my story, I mean, I really want to start earlier. When I grew up on a mountain in the heart of Switzerland, really in a small village, like we were 10 people in the whole primary schools, like two in my class. So, and then I grew up really in a traditional family, and then finally, you go through the school and everything, and your mindset is maybe to the next border, and that's it. And then during my school, I always thought like I have to really go out in the big world, but I never really got the chance to go further and back. And then yes, that's why I started also in a career in the beginning and with an apprenticeship on the construction. So I was working for 3-4 years in the construction area, and then I thought like it's not me. I have to really go out. And then by accident I was started traveling, so I saw a bit from the world, and I was really getting hungry of this of seeing more. And then I decided to start studying, and then I did my industrial engineer. It wasn't the normal one. It was already like a Porsche was in Switzerland, all the third was in Germany, and the last third was in France. So I already got a mix. And this was like really the eye opener. And from this, I started in different areas, more or less in the automotive industry for a couple of years, but always parallel. I had the hunger of I was hungry to really go also in the startup. So I want to invent something. And already in my studies, I was working a bit in startups, but I never had the courage to really start my own company. And then couple of years after corporate, I was a bit sick of these corporate companies, and then I started my MBA. I went to the University of St. Gallen, and there was a partnership with ESADE, so we switched always between Spain and Switzerland. It was very interesting, and that in this time maybe the best thing was happened was like they shut down our facilities in Switzerland. So I was laid off, so I was free to start something new. And then after a couple months of enjoying a bit of time and working hard for the MBA, I got a phone call from my former CFO, and he is in charge of several startups, and asked me like, it was actually Friday, 10 o'clock p.m. So it was in the night. I was like, what the fuck is he calling on this time? And then, yes, it told me, look, I have a new idea from Denmark. Are you interested? Come, let's meet next week and so on. He sent me a business plan, and then I thought like, okay, yeah, I can nothing lose. So I met those guys, but in the beginning I thought like, okay, now you're sending me a business plan about selling consumables like plastic tubes for the life science industry. I thought like, is he crazy? And then we met, and then they explained me the business around, and then I really thought like, wow, this is going to be a big opportunity. 2 weeks later signed, and then since then I started my company. That's more or less in a nutshell my background.
I love it. Thank you for going into those details. I really appreciate it. It's really I've been inspired when we met the first time in Zurich at the conference. It was really like when you share that story from where you come from and where you went to today. So today you're leading that company. You're in charge of that company.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a bit more about this journey with the company, with the startup. Like
Mm-hmm.
every startup has a unique journey with lots
Yeah.
of failures and a couple of successes. So tell a bit about that journey.
Actually, the journey started, more or less now 7-8 years ago in Denmark. It was in the research department. They really have a huge problem with the freezing thawing process for the not life science guys. Like when you freeze vegetables, meat, and thaw it up, you have not anymore the freshness, the quality. So it's more or less the same what happened in biological samples, plasma or blood. And they were looking for a solution that you really can avoid these cycles or reduced to one cycle. And then they created a prototype. It looks like a normal tube, a small container, and I got this. And then the decision was made, or the decision was come up: shall we bring it to the market or not? Because we just had the prototype, and then they decide, okay, Denmark is not the best place because of tax issues and so on. That's why we moved to Switzerland, and then we created a team. This was in 2013 with the Swiss business people, investors, and Scandinavian researchers. And then we founded in 2014 the company with the technology. And since then, we are really developing groundbreaking technologies in the storaging of biological samples, mainly blood plasma.
Mm. Okay, great. So tell me a bit more about that journey in terms of what were some of the major challenges you faced on that journey? Because I mean, when we talked, it was, I mean, it's like with everything that's groundbreaking is literally, you got to break ground, right? So tell me some of the, like, what are some of the biggest challenges that you faced up until today?
It's one of the biggest challenges when you look. I mean, we have one tube in the front of me here. It's like a prototype we had, and you look. You think this is a simple plastic tube, but we are operating from plus 30 degree to minus 200 degree in liquid nitrogen. So, and when you look at polymers plastic, it's more or less over by minus 60. So, but we need predefined breaking points in plastic by minus 200 degree. And this first we thought like, okay, a bit of plastic, breaking points, we can industrialize it very fast, but that was not the case. So we had to really go back to the molecular structure, influence this in a normal injection molding process, which is very difficult to do until really we're able to find the solution that these tubes are really break in this temperature. And this was in the beginning when you have a small tube, think, okay, it's done in half a year maximum. But when you really have to go back to the R&D and really industrialize this product, then you figure out, okay, this is going to be a bigger challenge than you expect. And now you can say we are the first who were able to find a solution for this. And of course, in this way, we had, how you spend the remaining time for other projects, or on the road you get new ideas. And now we can say we have several projects. Some are in prototype phase and some are really going to market. So we really have now a portfolio in the company of different products.
Now, this is something that really intrigued me as well when we met. I mean, because when you started, obviously you got the cash from the investors to build this all up, right? From basically where it was like a prototype on paper to when it was a prototype in in something touchable, but still a prototype. So I guess my question is, how do you persuade investors to put cash into something that you basically go out there and say, well, it doesn't work yet, but we're going to make it work?
I mean, you learn when you go to business school or learn about entrepreneurship, and you learn the pitching. But at the end, you have to convince, and your personality, I have to really convince. I raised now 3 times cash, and I went to investor meeting, which I really was a succeed in this. They say, look, you don't have to show me a presentation because the numbers there is anyway, sorry for the word, bullshit. So I was like, wow. So don't have to show me. And then in the same sense, they're like, how much you need? Because I believe you. You are the person who really can bring it to a success. So you can do it. It's like, at the end, you have to convince. And the hardest part is like, do you have the right team, the right people behind? You believe in it, and you really are committed to the project. I think this is one of the success keys.
Yeah, now this is really interesting because a lot of the stuff that is taught out there is like, you've got to have your numbers right, and you got to have the pitch deck right, and all that stuff, right? And that may work with Shark Tank. Or somewhere in a pitching environment where it's just that we just want to see you for 30 seconds. But I mean, what you're talking about is basically you need to persuade the people of your personality and of your ability to deliver, right? That is really what you need to persuade people, especially investors, but probably also customers, right? Investors about. Is that basically what you're saying?
Yes, you have to persuade and give them a vision. It's just give the investor a vision that they can, on one hand, they can help you, and on the other hand, they will get something in future. Because if they are not earning, you will not get anything. So you have to show them a solid business plan, and then your personality. Really, it's all about people, also in startup, because you can have the best product, but if the people are not the right ones to do it, because we interact globally, so we need to be able to adapt to the different culture, the different areas. It's like a mix of everything. And then if you have a guy who is just like focusing on or is an expert in a small area, he's mostly not really able to deal with the others. And you have to switch, go back and forth, and always stay up, because we were hitting many times into walls. It's like, it's how it is with startup. It sounds okay. We had 4 years of fast development, but we were many times on down, no cash, and then you have to raise, and then you have to go again to the same investors or the other ones, and convince them that they invest again. And this is like a long journey. But when you compare the figures we showed in the beginning and at the end, it's completely different, and you always have to postpone. But can you really close the story that they are still convinced and get you more cash? It's more or less in our case it was the key.
Now, how do you do that? I mean, so there's I'm just imagining. Okay, so I got 10 investors convinced to put money down for my vision, for my project, and I say, okay, we're gonna do this. And basically now 2 years later, you go back to the same investors and say, okay, guys, now we need more money. So how do you convince them to put money into something again? Maybe they expected to already get a return or see more progress, or
yeah, it's, of course, you have to achieve. You have to achieve certain milestones. I guarantee the milestones you never achieve them on time. That's like how it is in startups. 3 times longer, 3 times more cash. But since the beginning, I really played open cards with all. Even with my future customer, I really played open cards. Like, look, guys, that's the situation. I'm not cheating anything. So, and if something went wrong or if something went wrong, good, I shared that. And I say, look, you can always have a look in my books. No, that's be transparent. And when I saw other startups, I really tried to hide in the technology and everything. It's not going to work, especially when you're really especially if you go really in deep engineering, because this takes longer, this needs more cash, and then you have to be transparent. Of course, it's do you write the text like is the glass is half empty or it is half full? I mean, that's like where you play, but at the end of the day, you really have to be transparent. So that gives us trust. So also how to deal with the cash. So I mean, never was really spending too much. I really was show them for what I'm spending, even ask them is this fine or not. So then it's like, so I was able to keep the trust since the beginning. So I was able to raise twice from the same investors.
yeah, that's really interesting, like transparency, because there's a lot of advice out there that talks about being bulletproof and just make sure you don't talk about your ideas or about certain things to too many people because they're going to steal it from you and all these things, right? And what you're saying is basically the opposite of, if you want to have the trust of people, you have to trust them first and say, look, here's what we're doing, here's how we're spending the money, here's what's happening. But honestly, we can't predict the future. That's what we're aiming at. We have very high ambitions. We know we can deliver. But honestly, you gotta consider that it's predicting the future. I think that's a really interesting thing, because very often people are taught and also they try to make things perfect and just deliver. It's the perfect business plan or the perfect projection and all these kinds of things. But you're saying, at least what I'm hearing is, what you're saying is transparency is more important than perfection.
I will not both are very important, but maybe it's also a bit the Swiss nature, because we always want to deliver on time and everything. So it's like really deep in our genes. But especially, it's. I think both is very important, but the transparency from the beginning. I mean, it's Swiss per se are not selling themselves very good. What I learned, but when you have Swiss investors or other, we have also foreign investors from the US, from Scandinavia, and they really liked it, that you're really transparent and they show, look what he is doing. It's really he is not cheating us, so we know exactly where he stay, and so far it succeeds.
Excellent. I love that. Yeah. So tell me a bit more, like, let's talk about the present. So where do you stand right now with the company? What is sort of like, what's happening right now? What's going on right now?
Yeah, we have now developed, I mean, the core technology is really proven now. We have the prototypes ready. I mean, next step is going to be in this industrialization. But on the road to this technology, we started other projects. Before we had really only the freezing process in mind, but now we started really early in when you start collecting the blood, so that you guarantee from the collecting until the freezer, the sample is in the freezer frozen, then the whole process. So, and with this idea, we went also to the Eurostar, and we were among one of the best projects in Europe. So we got also granted there. So it's like we have on one hand ready to market, to bring it to the market, and on the other hand we have also like early stage technology that we are under development, and and it's now we want to bring the company to the next level, and therefore we need could be a big partner or a huge investment. As a huge, I mean, in the next investment. So it's with these investors we had really they were very good, but now for the next step they were able. I think they are able to invest, but I think we need also a bit fresh blood into the company that brings into one step further. It's always a life cycle. Also startups, after a couple of years, you have to bring it to combine with other, get new resources in, and it's like the step or the strategy we are working now on it.
Okay, great. So what I heard is kind of like you have on the way of developing this one core product, you also developed a second part, so to say, of the company. Now, are they independent of each other? Meaning that right now, even if you don't have the prototype market ready to sell, there's revenue you can generate on the other product. Are they independent or completely dependent on each other?
It's both. It depends where you are going, and the next partner, who is interested in which product. But this is like the second big project was based on the first one, but we can go separate. I mean, we don't need to work. We don't have to link it together. It can be a standalone, can even be a standalone company, but it makes sense to keep it together. But it's just in terms of the timeline, it's a bit in a different stage. Yeah, because the other project needs at least 2 years more to really bring it, or having the prototype and the complete system ready, because it's a bit there are more companies involved or more ideas involved to bring all together. It's a very difficult task. So, but we are flexible to keep it together or run it separately. That's like,
okay. So basically what I'm hearing is the diversification that happened along the way, because you were developing that one core product, and out of that development and research and everything that you developed came that second one, which was sooner ready to go than the first one, which also created a new potential revenue stream that is earlier ready than the first one, and potentially even fund part of the development of the first one. And I think that's a really interesting lesson learned there, because it's sort of a balance between focus and being open, being open-minded. And I think what you did there is you were totally focused on one thing, but still open-minded to add one more thing instead of 100 more things, but add one more of these ideas that came out of it and add it to the mix, so it could be diversified and also add a new revenue stream.
Yeah. That's a good point with stay focused. I mean, everyone says stay focused on your product. I believe that it's important, but when after 1-2 years, if you're really concentrated on one product or on one technology, you're getting, I mean, your focus is really going down, and you have your openness is lost, especially if you're like a bit, if you like to think outside of the box. So you need always a second or a third project that gives you energy and combined that really keep your eyes open. So just stay focused. It's not 100% correct in my ways. You need always to get inspired from different angles, bring new energy in your core product, and this gives you room to play a bit. So when you say 100% in one part or in one technology, I think it's not the right way.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think
you need extra energy from the other side.
Yeah,
because it's like a spiral. You turn and you have the same problem, and then it's like your motivation, your energy is slowing down. So you need somewhere an area where you can get energy. And as in a startup, you can take holiday, but you're never free. The maximum is like 3-4 days, because then then it's like in these 4 days, okay, I can postpone my mail. But it's not really possible having a holiday or really relax and not thinking about. So you need another way to get your energy and your inspiration, your ideas, and then it's having another project. Can be completely different, something different. But in our case, it was a similar project which really helps the industry improving the whole sample storaging. So
that is a really good point. I think what you're saying is, you have an umbrella, which is the vision, right? You have that umbrella of the vision, and you're developing one core product underneath that vision, underneath that umbrella. Now, if you happen to come up with another one that is brilliant and moves you in the same direction and is underneath that umbrella, yes. But if you have to switch umbrellas, probably doesn't make any sense. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And when you also raise money, this is good when you have additional project. I mean, you can start when you go to a university and okay, you work in this, and then when the question is coming, what else? Do you have a portfolio? What is your future? And then you can really bring other projects. And we have we created also a pipeline where we can start immediately. So you always can show. And if you say, okay, if you go to another investor and say, okay, you have to stay focused, then you just leave it away. So it's you can play a bit.
That is really, really good, yeah.
And you always have like days where you have to wait in the companies. The manufacturer is not ready. I mean, we are working with OEM manufacturer together. So then it's can be that for 1-2 weeks, it's like not a lot of work. And then you say, okay, like, stay focused on other project until the results from the manufacturer is coming, and so on. Then you can play a bit.
Yeah, you're basically using that idle time. Yeah.
You have your resources, and you have to use your resources. And sometimes we are humans, and the motivation is sometimes good, sometimes bad. And so if you see, okay, your employee is not really motivated on this task, so you can switch them quickly to another project, like solve me this, and then I will do it. So that then you can start playing. And I think this is really important.
Yeah, I love this as a great way, have not just one project, but maybe another one or two other ones underneath the same umbrella, also to play with employee engagement, which is very powerful, especially if you have a lot of creative people around, you want to make sure you keep them engaged, keep the creativity engaged. Great point. So where are you heading from today onwards? What's happening in, the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years?
Oh, that's a good question. It's like now we reach a certain level, and of course I want to go one level higher, and definitely with the company. But you never know. I mean, when you know a bit my background, when I grew up on the mountain, I never expected to see the big world. So I was traveling many times around the world. I mean, I'm sitting a lot in the aircraft and flying around Europe or in the US, and so to really plan, I think it's not really working. Of course, we are focusing to bring the company further, and I really want to, if it's possible, stay in entrepreneurship and getting new project and make everything bigger. But how I see him in 5 years, hopefully still in the entrepreneurship and on another level, and also helping young entrepreneurs to really live their dreams. Maybe from another perspective.
Yeah,
How it looks like, it's, I mean, it's, the world is so fast, and it's like, it's,
yeah. Maybe I should have asked in 6 months instead of 5 years, because 5 years is like,
yeah, in 6 months.
what are you talking about?
In the next 6, 7, and 8 months, I mean, we really are working to bring the company to the next level. And for me, it's clear. I mean, I'm now since 4 years in the company, and I see, maybe for the next step, when you really have a partner or another investment, maybe we need another person who take over, because the product has a life cycle and the people have a life cycle.
Now that's an interesting topic. That's an interesting one. So, you're a natural born entrepreneur, I would say. You're the entrepreneurial type. You love starting new things, creating things, moving things forward. And at some point, a company gets into a place where it's more the CEO is more of a manager, right? Still, of course, a leader, but less of an entrepreneur, more of a manager. So, what's your insight on that? Based on your experience and on people you know, is that something that's commonplace? Is that something that people need to be aware of in terms of, okay, when you get to a certain level, you need to review and say, okay, am I still the entrepreneur? What's your insights?
I think it's very important, and I saw or was involved also in other startups. There was one of the main problems that they never succeed. It's like when you start in a startup or even a company, and you're hired or you have an idea for a certain time, and especially when you start very early in the beginning of the company, so you know your life cycle is over after a couple of years, because you bring the whole energy. You work night and days for years, no break, nothing. I mean, this takes substance from you, and your inspiration is not anymore as big as it was in the beginning, and you need to understand that and act early enough that you bring new energy in, or could be a new people, or could be a team around that takes over. But you have to be aware that it could be that you have to go and just be as an advisor in the team. And I experienced with another company, there was an absolutely fantastic engineer, and he started a company, everything, but they missed to really bring a CEO in for the next level. So I experienced that an engineer is in the early stage could be the best CEO ever, but that his capability is the same for the future. It's very difficult. So you should think, when you start the company, when should you move, or when should you bring new people in, that you have a continuous speed and bring it forward. Yeah. Because you have not the resources that you can say, okay, 1-2 years earlier or later, it doesn't matter. So you have to continuously bring power into the company, and we are limited. We are humans. We are limited after 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, our energy goes down. So, question is how or when is the right time to bring new energy in, and this can be also replacement. I'm completely aware of that.
That's interesting, because I think not a lot of people are really aware of that. Not a lot of entrepreneurs, CEOs of fast-growing companies are aware of that, because very often what I see is they cling on to their thing because they love it so much that even if it's no longer so much fun and inspiration and energy, they try to cling on to it. And it's very interesting to see that you're so aware of that you say, in 2 years from today, I could be leading another company, I could be leading this company, but I know that I need to be in a role that is natural to me, and I need to be in an entrepreneurial role. If I become a manager, I know I've done my duty.
Yeah.
I need to move on.
Yeah. I mean, you have to hire people, and up to like 10 people, 15 people. Okay, you really can lift the spirit of a startup, but then you have to get a bit professional, and that the company make the switch, and yourself too. I mean, it's your baby. Then it's very difficult. It's easier to go out, put a guy in who built from 15 to 30, 50 people, and then come back or be in the board. because that's the company has to do the switch, and your personal switch has to be done as well. So this is like a double work, which is very difficult. Of course, there are people or managers around or CEOs that they are able to do it, but when you get other people who are doing better, why not?
Yeah, I
You
love
can
that
always
advice.
come back,
Yeah.
and you can always stay in the company. That's by any means. But I believe especially if you really want to grow fast or hurry up, it's important that you get always like a product, always new product and new people in the company, that you can keep this pace or this speed. When you have a good idea, there are definitely 10, 20 people around the world who start the same. So, and it's key is what you see also in Harvard, the Harvard reviews, and so they say, guys, accelerating, growing, that's one of the key success factor, and you have to do it smart. And I believe if you really work on this, that you can replace yourself as like a product life cycle, the chance of success is bigger.
Absolutely
Probably is
agree.
higher.
Really, really, really good points. Now, just looking once again, looking back on your career as an entrepreneur, as a CEO,
Mm-hmm.
if you have to point out 3 key learnings over the past, many years, what would you point out? If you were talking to yourself when you were 18 years old or maybe 20 years old, and you would say, here's the 3 things you need to watch out.
Yeah, I was really bad in the school. So, but not because I was not good. It was just not interested, because with the nice nature we have, so there's definitely better things to do than going to school. So I had a really the lowest grade. I was a C student, and I want to say that at the end, it's not the grade that you have in the beginning in the school. So even talents with low grades has a chance. That's maybe unique in Switzerland. And there's another project. I'm a bit involved in apprenticeship, because I did an apprenticeship. So the Americans, they want to really adapt the system. So they take me sometime as a reference. So I was able to really on the high government level to shake hands or having dinner and breakfast or lunch. So it was really interesting, and they want to learn how it's possible to come from a normal way, from the construction, and start your own company in a complete different industry. So it's maybe an advice to parents. So if the kids are not really good in school, that means nothing, because it's just like certain tools they give. Important is what you can, or what the kid should learn, or the teenage, is like to fight for it. Because the lovely, nice area where you get everything for free, it's like over. I mean, I would be happy, but I would definitely not stay in the position where I am when I never had to fight. I really was fighting up. So that's more important. Learn to fight, keep patient, never give up, instead of having good grades.
That is big.
Yeah, this is like one of the first. And the second thing is, I did also, before I started to study, I was in the army. I did my officer school and so, and there were really mentors. So they were like more or less the first mentors, and they say, look, I know you are a code, you're thinking outside of the box, you cannot sit a long time on the chairs and so on, and then say, but I believe in you, and you can motivate all people. So focus on the people who believe in you, and the author will say, you are. I mean, in the primary school, not in the high school, the teacher told me, yeah, you're going to be nothing. You're going to be maybe once a good employee. That's it. So, but take this energy to show them that you are much better than them. So this combination, one had the mentor who believe in it, think about, always remember, and on the other hand, take the energy for the guys. They are weaker than you, but they're saying, I mean, you are nothing, and so this. And the third thing is, like, I would say, never give up. So it's like the way to success, it's hard, everyone sees just the shiny thing when you succeed, and but what you do beside it's not really known. So always, yeah.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you for that. That was, oh my God, these were very, very powerful, very, very powerful learning. So last point, what's the best way for people to reach you, know more about the company, know more about you?
You can go directly via LinkedIn, for example. LinkedIn, I mean, on LinkedIn. Just drop me a message and so on. And if someone want to talk to me, you can also approach you. And yeah, I mean, I'm 24/7 available mostly. So, but I'm happy to share more. It was a short time, quickly the half an hour. But if someone really passed by or so, I want to meet them, I'm happy to share more. I mean, you just got some insights in this journey from the Riggy to now to the startup. I mean, there were a lot of other things around, and an advice is maybe for guys who just graduate from high school, go traveling, see the other world, and as low cost as possible, because then you really learn about yourself and how other people work. Take this half a year off. It's nothing lost. I mean, it's when you start the apprenticeship, people say, until you finish with your university, then I'm 46, 7. 1-2 years. I mean, it's the 1-2 years when you the retirement age, it's going to be 70 until you earn this. So it's like for 40 years of work or even 50 years of work. I mean, it's 1-2 years, nothing. So start as early as possible. Go out of your country, travel around the world in cheap countries, not in the countries there everything is already built up. So then you learn yourself, and then you really get your motivation.
Love it. Perfect. So I'm going to link to your LinkedIn profile below the video so people can check you out, connect with you, reach out to you. And just wanted to say thank you again. I love the journey, and I love the story. Thank you so much for being here and sharing that with me.
You're welcome. And thank you very much. And have a great day. Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.